How's it going? My name is Colin Winters. I'm the host of the Panthers Place, and today we are going over the Carolina Panthers full 2024 draft. So the draft is finally over. The Panthers have made their picks. The entirety of the NFL is going to be welcoming in their new set of rookies, and I am sitting here feeling pretty much just joy. I am super happy with how this draft worked out for us. I'm super happy with how the regime seems to be handling the draft, how aggressive they are, the chess they're playing with other teams. It just feels good, and it feels like this is a big culture shift when it comes to the Panthers, and I am all for it. This draft had everything for the Panthers. Trades up, trade down, a little bit of a weird pick that nobody really understood, great picks that everyone was super excited for. It had pretty much everything you should be able to expect from a competent NFL team. And even though that sounds really sad that that's all we're excited for, it's just pure competency, it's been a rough past 7 years. And the regime did not make us wait long. I thought I was going through the entire night one just watching to see what other teams got. But no, instead, we saw a bang off in the first round because the Carolina Panthers moved up with the Buffalo Bills, who previously moved back with the Chiefs, for the 32nd pick, the last pick in the first round. The Bills got our 33rd pick, which is the first pick in the second round, and they got our 5th round pick, which was pick 141, and we got the 32nd pick, and the 200th pick, which is the 6th rounder. So we didn't even lose a pick in this trade up. We just swapped two late round picks just to jump back a little bit later. So the Panthers were able to pretty much sustain the entirety of their draft capital, because once you get into the late round picks, it's really a crapshoot, so I don't mind seeing a lot of movement back there. So I was pretty happy with this trade. It seemed like a fantastic trade, and because we got a new wide receiver for Bryce Young and Xavier Leggett, and it's Leggett, not Leggett. I thought it was Leggett, but no, it's Leggett. He specifically said Leggett.
Oh yeah, that's how I tell everybody just to hold it. Make sure you say it with 2 E's.
Xavier, of course, a wide receiver coming out of South Carolina. He was essentially just the guy who was constantly mocked to the Carolina Panthers. He visited the Panthers multiple times, and it seemed written in stone that the Panthers loved this guy. He was pretty much just the crush for Dave Canales and Dan Morgan. He is the definition of a dog, which is exactly what Dan Morgan wants on this team, and it just seems like it was a no-brainer for them to go ahead and try to pick him up in this draft. And when the situation came to be, they were able to trade up, and now they have not only him on a good rookie deal, they have him on their team, they have him with a 5th-year option as well. So if he does work out, guess what? Now we can have him for an additional year. This gives us a lot more time to be able to build a team even better around us, with Bryce still on his rookie contract, and now with, hopefully, which will be his next elite receiver, in Xavier Leggett. God damn, that name is a tongue twister for a white guy like me. We're going to look over his 2023 stats real quick, along with the rest of the draft prospects that we're going to be talking about. Well, not prospects anymore, new Panthers. We had 71 receptions with 1,255 yards and 7 touchdowns, which was an absolutely fantastic, he was the number one guy down in South Carolina, and that is what you love to see. We didn't get a guy who was just building off hype because of the raw intangibles he had. He was the premier guy down there. And if you look at Spencer Rattler highlights, you don't even have to look for XL, because if you're looking at Spencer Rattler, he's more likely going to be throwing 2XL. He's 6'1" with 221 pounds, and even though he is that size, he still ran just under a 4.40 with that 4.39. And that is just a mighty fast guy for the type of build he has. He kind of looks like, if you ever seen good pictures of him, a scaled down DK Metcalf. And just in terms of his body build and the way his mold is. And essentially, I'm thinking that he's probably going to hopefully develop into the guy that is just Bryce Young's, he's down there somewhere type of guy. The guy where if he needs to put a play out of his ass, you just send him down on the streaker route and then just fucking sling that bitch down into the end zone. Because his play on a jump ball is absolutely amazing. You remember all those balls that DJ Chark dropped? Yeah, those are a thing of the past with XL. Many fans were expecting during the trade-up that we were actually going to be going to get A.D. Mitchell, who fell a lot longer than I thought he would, because even I myself thought we were probably going to go ahead and get A.D. Mitchell instead of XL, but that didn't happen, and a lot of fans lost their fucking shit. But judging by how far A.D. fell, there must be a reason scouts were going to put him so low on their draft boards. So you just have to be able to try and trust the process, and no matter what, before I go on with the rest of this video, remember, the draft is a fucking crapshoot. We have no idea, no matter how much scouting we do, how these players will work out in the NFL. We only have our best ideas. And that is something huge to remember whenever you go into a new season with your rookies. You have no idea how quickly they'll pick up to NFL speed, NFL power, NFL schemes. You have no idea if they're going to be fucking fantastic, if they're going to be fucking horrible. First round grade, seventh round grade, that all just comes down to probability, how well they may transition. Still, after the XL pick, we now move into the second round, and we already had the regime doing more and more trades. We traded back in the second round with the Rams. The Rams got the 39th pick, and we moved all the way back to 52 while accumulating a fifth round pick and pick 155. And what really made me happy with this trade is that we got a second round pick next year out of the Rams. So we are making our draft for next year complete after the trade that we had to make for the first overall pick to get Bryce Young the year prior. So this pretty much was just a great trade overall. Yeah, we moved back a little bit further than I would have liked, but getting that other second round pick made it completely, totally understandable to me. I'd had no complaints after finding out we got that. But afterwards, we traded back up in the second with the Colts. We gave them the 52nd pick, 142 fifth round pick, and 155 that we just got from the Rams, and we got the 46th. I don't know why I said 42nd. I'm just an idiot. Remember that. Yes, we got the 46th pick, which is a second rounder, of course. So we traded back up after trading back to move up a few spots to be able to go ahead and get a running back, the first running back off the board, and Jonathan Brooks, a running back out of Texas. Jonathan Brooks, of course, being the highest rated running back in this draft class. The draft class didn't have too many elite running backs when it came to how much depth there was in this draft. This was much more a very heavy receiver class, of course. But we, as the Panthers, came and got the first running back off the board. In 2023, he had 187 carries for 1,139 yards and 10 touchdowns. And when it comes to his receiving stats as well, he had 25 receptions for 286 yards and 1 touchdown. He was the workhorse back when it came to Texas, who only got injured in last season with a complete ACL tear, which he has since gotten a surgery on with the Cowboys doctor, and is expected to be ready by training camp, so there should be no concern of whether or not we'll actually be able to see him in action when it comes to seeing the new guys on the field. But he is 6 foot at 216 pounds. He has extremely high acceleration and extremely quick cuts when it comes to watching him on film. And he loves to run through contact. So arm tackles are not going to be enough to bring this guy down. Otherwise, the only really big concern I have with him is the aforementioned ACL tear and any sort of injury history. ACL tears, of course, are terrible and very hard to come back from. Of course, with the modern medicine and modern surgeries we have today, it is becoming more and more apparent that the ACL tear, while still, of course, you never would wish it on anyone, it's still terrible to get, super extremely painful, really painful. It's still becoming easier to recover from, but it's always not a complete science, and you don't know how easy they're going to be prone to injuring that knee again. But still, for the value, and of course, because we traded up for them, I'm expecting him to be able to have an immediate role in the offense. The running back room right now is quite barren. The main guys that we have in the running back room that you could see as starters really only being Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard. Of course, we did sign Raheem Blackshear to another one-year deal, but he's more of one of our kick returners instead of a real back who's, going to be seeing action in actual offensive schemes and positions. Now, moving on to the third round, we have the final trade that we saw for the night for the Panthers. We traded back in the third round with the Jets. The Jets got the 65th pick, which is in the third round, and the Panthers got the 72nd pick, and we recuperated a fifth that we lost in that trade up for Jonathan Brooks. And with that 72nd pick in the third round, we selected linebacker out of Kentucky, Trevin Wallace. Now, I won't lie, the initial reception of Trevin Wallace was just, why? And many people thought we were probably going to instead get the linebacker out of NC State, Peyton Wilson, sorry. Many people thought it would be him that we were going to be taking in the third round, especially with him dropping so far. But something I didn't know is that this motherfucker just ain't got a knee. That dude has no ACL in one of his knees. So I'm sure that's the biggest reason why he's been slipping that draft board so much. But with taking Trevin Wallace, a lot of Panthers fans were immediately equating him to the DJ Johnson pick that we had not too long ago, because it was just fighting back. It was a linebacker that not many people really knew about. It seemed like another one of those big reach guys that was okay, they're just pulling him pure off of upside. Why would they grab him right here? But the more I looked at his tape and the more I started to actually see his stats, what type of player he was at Kentucky, I started to realize a lot more why he was picked in this place. And it's because he embodies everything that Dan Morgan would want to see in a linebacker. In 2023, he had 80 total tackles, 45 solo, and 35 assisted, with 5.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 1 interception. He is 6'1 at 237 pounds, and he is just absolutely the hardest hitter that I've seen the Panthers draft in a while. Besides, let's just say real quick, even though he hasn't been doing too well on the team, DJ Johnson, who is also an extremely hard hitter, and he just seems like an athlete who needs a lot more polishing. And taking him in the third round can be a little bit rich for some, but I go back and I start to think about the coaching staff that we have. And if Dan Morgan thinks that this guy is worth it, a former linebacker who is our GM, and we have him getting the green light from our defensive coordinator, I think that this dude could actually have a pretty good role. Our internal linebacking core is still very limited right now. We need to do a lot more to be able to get some depth in there. So with him being able to learn behind someone like Josie Jewell, I feel like him and Evero will be able to work together to make him a more polished pro, and he can eventually become a starter for us. Now in the 4th round, we got a Panthers Twitter fan favorite, someone that the fandom was hoping we would pick up the entire time. With the 101 pick in the 4th round, we have Jatavion Sanders, tight end out of Texas. And it feels like we were like really just grabbing a bunch of Texas players because we just got the entirety of their 2023 starting lot when it comes to their skill position players. Sanders 2023 looked like 45 receptions, 682 yards, and 2 touchdowns, which, even though I didn't compare any of the other years, it seemed to be very on par with the other previous year he had, which was also, 600 yards, 5 TDs. Very consistent player. He's 6'4", 245 pounds, so just still very tall, not the most elite tallness when it comes to that. Usually you like to see your tight ends around 6'5", 6'6", but there's nothing wrong with 6'4", 245 pounds. He's a very fast tight end, but he is a little bit limited as a blocker. He's able to get in those impact blocks and chip blocks, but any sustained blocking seems to have a little bit of an issue with. He has great range when it comes to his arms and his motion for contested catches, and he does have a quick bursting speed. So even as a tight end, if he gets the ball in his hands, he has that separation speed that should be able to get him away from linebackers and slower safeties. With the current tight end room for the Carolina Panthers consisting of Tommy Tremble, Ian Thomas, and Stephon Sullivan, I really think that JT is going to be able to come in here and be an immediate impact player. I feel like Tommy Tremble is still tight end 1 for the team, but now you're no longer going to have to see in 2 tight end sets Ian Thomas trying to catch a ball with his brick hands. Ian Thomas can block all day, but that man can't fucking catch. So hopefully Jatavion Sanders can come into the team and fill that role and take it away from Ian Thomas, because there is no reason that we should be seeing Ian Thomas doing any sort of fucking tight end screen anymore. And now, before I move on to the rest of the rounds, that being 5th, 6th, and 7th, I want to preface with the way I see that these rounds moving forward is that rounds 1 through 4, you're looking at players who are hopefully going to be able to slot in and have some sort of impact year 1. When it comes to 5, 6, and 7, I really do believe that those are purely the type of rounds where you're going and you're getting guys that are either going to be special teams players, or you're hoping that with a few years of polish can become a fringe starter. Of course, you can always get those diamonds in the rough who can become a starter day 1, but I'm always going to be looking at the value pick when it comes to that. How much do you think you can polish this guy for later years? With that in mind, we can move on to the 5th round, which is where we selected at 157 Chau Smith-Wade, a CB, a cornerback out of Washington State. And honestly, CB being a huge need for the Carolina Panthers, I was expecting us to pick one earlier, but Chau Smith-Wade does have a lot of upside look to him. In 2023, he had 36 total tackles, 23 solo, and 13 assisted tackles, and of course, 6 pass deflections, no interceptions or forced fumbles in that year. Of course, he did also have a really good showing in the Reese's Bowl and stuff like that, but he did miss a good portion of 2023 with an injury, so those numbers could have been even better and maybe had a chance to get those interceptions. But he's also a little bit on the smaller end. He's 5'10 and 184 pounds, and he's not the fastest with that small stature. Usually, if you have those smaller CBs, a lot of them can be very quick and a lot of speedy and hang with the very fast receivers in the NFL. But he's not crazy fast. He's not slow either, but still, He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he does have major hustle. He's able to make sure he comes in with the pursuit afterwards and clean up blocks, not allow a lot of yards after catch. And he's also very, very good at sticking in with man coverage. But in that man coverage I've seen in his film, he seems to get a little bit handsy. And in an NFL, things are going to be called a lot more often than not, unless you're Sauce Gardner. And then he's going to be probably flagged a little bit too often than we would like. Simply due to how barren our defensive back room is, I can see him probably seeing some sort of reps on the regular season, actually on the playing field, but more than likely I'd probably point him in as like a special teams guy and maybe even a practice squad at the end of it. Just depends on how much we have defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero see what his role could be in the team. Moving on to the 6th round and pick 200, we had Jaden Crumedy, pretty sure that's how you pronounce his name, a defensive tackle out of Mississippi State. Now, this guy is a big but fast boy. In 2023, he had 35 total tackles, 10 solo and 25 assisted, 2 pass deflections, and 2.5 sacks. He's 6'4" at 301 and had a pretty decent amount of speed to him. His biggest strengths in the film that I've seen, which is a little bit limited to be honest, was that he's very good at disengaging the block and being able to get towards runners that are running by him. But he does seem to be a little bit slower when it comes to playing off the snap, meaning that he's not getting much leverage against the offensive lineman he's going against. And with the speed in NFL ramping up even higher than it is in college, you have to expect that he may have an even harder time if he was already struggling with that in college versus the NFL. With Evero doing a lot of rotational stuff when it comes to our defensive line, especially with how lacking we are in line depth, I do see getting a good interior defensive line depth piece is a very good decision on our part in the 6th round. You know, it's not a big deal if he doesn't work out, but if he does work out, you got great value for a great rotational guy, but I'm not expecting him to become a star at any point. And finally, because I've been rambling on way too fucking long, in our 7th round, pick 240, we picked Michael Barrett, linebacker out of Michigan. When I looked at his stats in his film, I was a little bit surprised that he actually made it all the way to the 7th round, because in his 2023 campaign, he had 65 total tackles, 39 solo, 26 assisted. He had 2 pass deflections, 3 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. But then I also saw that he is a little bit small for a linebacker. He's at 5'11" for 233 pounds, but with that, he is a little bit more stockier, so he's able to go ahead and contest a lot of people with more power. He has great wraparound with his arm, so if he has a guy coming off the edge, he is really good at making sure he is able to at least wrap around his hips and bring the man down, which could be an issue with the new hip drop tackle rule. We'll see how that works out. But he has also 100% an effort in every play I've seen when it comes to just the entirety of the film that I've watched so far. He is always giving his all in every play, and even if the small size is making it so that he gets a little bit more bodied by the bigger receivers in the middle of the field, I believe that I would say the strength that he has and the fact that he's always going to give 100% is a little bit enticing to especially get him with the value in the 7th round. And other than the size, another con that I did see is that he does lack pursuit. And what I mean by that is that if a dude does get past him, whether or not it's just because he's not good at following the guy, or maybe he's just a little bit too slow to keep up, he does seem to lose a lot of guys if they start to stretch the field around him. But that is all of the Carolina Panthers picks in the 2024 NFL Draft. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm very happy. I feel like the Panthers did a great job at addressing needs. They did a great job at doing trades. They got a lot of good picks for it. They got the 2nd round pick next year to make sure we fill up our draft and make it complete. They got new guys for our quarterback. They just got so much done that I didn't expect, because I was still in the feeling that, oh my God, this team's incompetent. But it just feels different now. If I had to give our draft an overall grade, I would probably give it an A-, just because, of course, there are always players that I feel like could have been better picks at the positions they were, but then again, I'm not a fucking NFL scout, so the grade I give literally means jack fucking shit. But I've done enough yapping for now. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.